Hello guys, you're welcome back to another demo video. So in today's demos video, we're going to look at a complete user registration and login flow with email verification. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to create a simple application with the complete flow for user registration. But after the user have registered, they have to verify their emails, which means the application has to send a verification email code to their email, so they can follow the link to verify their registration. So it is after the verification they will be able to log into their account. This is just like a kind of scenario we see every day, every time we register for programs online, where we have to verify our email before we can actually log into our account, right? So that is what we'll be doing here in this little demo that we're going to have in the next few minutes. So for this, I'm just going to go to IntelliJ and generate a brand new project from IntelliJ. So here we're going to have this as Spring Boot, right? So Spring Boot email verification, Spring Boot email verification demo. So we're going to call this verification demo, right? And now I'm going to change the ID to daily code work, daily code work. And here I'm going to click on next. And we're just going to have the Lombok. I'm going to have the Lombok dependency, and we're going to have JPA, data JPA, and we're going to have the web, right? The web. We're going to have the web, Spring Web, and we're going to have the MySQL driver, because we'll be using MySQL database. And then we're going to have, what else we're going to have? We have the JPA, we have the web, we have Lombok, we have MySQL. So we're going to have the security. So we're going to have the security, this one here. So I think these are the things we just need. These are the dependencies we need for now. If as time goes on, if we have if there is any need for other dependencies, we can always come here to add them as per need. So this one I'm just going to open on the same window, and let's wait until this one is generated. So here our project has been created. We have generated a brand new project, and I'm just going to close this down and close this down. So we're going to open up our project. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to create a new package. Here we're going to create a new package. This package is going to be called user, right? So what is happening? Okay, here we create a new package, right? User. So this user package, and inside here we're going to create a new class. So what we're just going to do right now is to create the user entity, right? So we're going to create the user module, because this is what we'll be using for the demo. Yes, just add to Git. So we're going to do this with user, right? User registration. So now the first thing we're going to do is to create the complete user module. That is the controller, the entity, the service, the repository, everything about user, right? So that's what we're going to do right now. So for then, this is the user class, and so now we're going to have some attribute for the user as usual. So here we have the ID, the first name, and of course we're going to have the last name as usual, and here we're going to have the email, so of type string as well, email, and we're going to have the password. So here we have the password, and what else do we want to have for the user? So we need the user row. The user is going to have row, right? So here we have we're just going to make this as a simple string of row, right? And the last one we're going to have is of boolean So this one is going to be is enabled, and is enabled, and straight away we're just going to set this one to false here. Enabled. What? Okay, no problem. So these are the attributes we need for the user. So what we're just going to do, we're going to make this one a manage type, which is we're going to make use of the Lombok annotation the Lombok we added. So we're going to make use of annotations here. So we're just going to have the getters, and we're going to have the setters, and we're going to have the no-arg constructor at no-arg constructor, and we're going to have all-arg constructor. Yes, and the last thing we're going to have is the entity to make it a JPA entity, right? So this is what we've gotten. So the next thing here, we're going to specify the ID. So here we just have the ID, and we're going to have at generated value. We got this one here, and we're going to set the strategy identity. Yeah, this is what we need. And now I'm going to make this email a natural ID, so that no two users can have the same email, right? Natural ID. And we are going to set this mutable true, so that the user can change their email. If they want to change, they can change their email, right? Or they can correct their email. Okay, so these are what we need right here for this for our user entity. So now I'm going to close this down, and we're going to create a service class for our user. User service. So we have user service. So this is user service, but I'm going to create an interface for the user service, so we can actually user service, and this one's going to be interface, and here it's going to be interface here, and here we're going to create a couple of methods here. So here we're going to create a method to get all users from the database. Yes, list of users, and this one is get users. And the next one we're going to do here is so we're going to add a user, right? We're going to add a user. So here we have user. So we're going to call this one register user, and registration. We're going to create registration request. We're going to create this class in a moment. And next we're going to find a user. This optional find by email, and here we're going to take a string of email, right? So these are the things we just need here right now. So now I'm going to create this class here. So let's create this class, registration request, and this one here I'm going to put this one in a separate package. So here I'm going to call this package registration. Yeah, just choose this and put it inside, right? So what we just need to get, actually I'm going to change this to a record. I'm going to change it to record. So in case you have not used record before, or you don't know what is record, there's a video in my channel here where I talked about records. So I'm going to leave the link below this video, so you can just follow this link, and watch, try to know about records, so that you can actually know how records work, right? So this one here, we're going to just have everything we have here, except we're just going to have everything here except the ID, and the is enabled. So what I'm just going to do here is to paste it here. But no, I'm going to remove all this access modifiers, remove all this, because we are using record, right? So we don't need access modifiers here. So this one here, here, and just remove this, and this one to this. So this is our record class, okay? And okay, so this is all we need for the record for our registration request. So like I said, in case you don't know how record works, there's a video in my channel that you can just watch. So the link below, there's a link below there. I've dropped the link below this video, so just follow that link and try to learn about records, how they work, okay? So now I'm just going to close this, and now the error is gone. So I'm going to close this as well. So here I'm going to implement our user service. So say implement user service here, and then we're going to implement all the method we've created in there. So implement methods. So we implement all this. So here we go. And now we're going to just finish up with our user module, right? So what I'm going to do here is we're going to create a repository. So we're going to say user repository, and we'll just call it user repository here. And this one here, we're going to, before I forget, we're going to add this at service annotation, and we're going to have at required, because we're going to auto-wired, we're going to inject our user repository. So we're going to have this here. So for that, we're going to make this as final, right? Make this final, and we're going to, let's create this. It's going to be an interface in user, right? So this one is our user repository, and of course this one is going to extend the JPA repository, right? JPA repository. JPA repository here, and this one is user, and of ID is long, right? So this is what we just need here. And now we're just going to find all users. So we're just going to say return user repository dot find all. So that is all we need to get our users from the database, to fetch every user from the database, right? So here we're going to come back to this method in a moment. On this one here, we're just going to return user repository dot find by email. Find by email here. So we're going to pass in the email here. So now we're going to create this method in our repository. So because this one is a finder method, right? So we just create it here, and that is done, and it's done too. So now we're going to go back here. We're going to come back to our user registration. So what we're just going to do here, before the user will be registered, we're going to check if the user is already in existence, right? So for that, we're just going to So for that, I'm just going to check for the user existent in our database. So now we're going to have the optional, right? Optional user, and we say user. We just call this one user equals user repository. Let me just say let's find, because this dot find by email, right? And we're going to just call request dot email. So now we're going to check if the user exists or not, right? So here we have if the user is present. If the user is present, then we just have to throw we just have to give a message, right? So we have to throw new user already exists. So we're going to create this an exception class. We're going to create this exception class later. Already exists. Exception. And we're just going to pass in a simple message here. User with email plus request dot email. So this one I'm going to make it a full screen so we can actually see what we're doing here, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So a user with this email plus, so already exists. So this is just a simple message we want to display for the user. So if the user already exists, so we're going to throw this message to the user, right? Here I think I'm going to break this down so we can see it clearly. So what we just did here is that we check if the user already exists in our database. So basically we're going to be checking the email because we don't want a user that already exists to be recreated, right? So we're going to check the email. If the user already exists, it's going to send this message. A user with this email, this one here already exists in our database. Now, if that is not the case, if we've not gotten such a user before, then we're going to continue with the registration process. So for that, we're going to create an empty container for the user. New user equals new user. Please make sure you are getting the user. You are taking the user from the one we created, right? Because here we have a couple of different users from different libraries. So the one we're taking is the one we created, our own user defined object, right? So here we just say new user, right? And now we're going to say new user dot set first name. So we're going to get registration dot first name here. So this is how records work, right? So here we don't need to call we don't need to have to call the get first name. We just say registration dot first name. So in case you've not watched that video, please try to watch the video. I have a video that talked about records here in my channel. The link is below this video, so please try to watch that video. Okay, so now we go here and say set last name. So here we have registered dot last name, and we're going to do the same thing for the rest of the attributes, right? So here let's just go dot set email register dot email, and the password as well dot set password. So this one we're going to come back to this in a moment. This is set, not get. We're going to come back to this in a moment. So let's say so let's set the role. So new user dot set role. So we have registration dot role, And after this, now we're going to actually save this user to the database, right? So here we're just going to call the user repository dot save. So we're going to save the user. So this one is just the normal process of creating Crud application, right? Spring Boot Crud. So there's nothing new here. We have not done anything strange here, right? So in case you are not familiar with CRUD operation, there's a video here in my channel that actually talked about how to create a complete CRUD application with Spring Boot. So I'm going to drop the link below as well. I'll just check below this video. Check for the link. You can watch that to actually get the grasp of how to create a complete CRUD operation for Spring Boot application. So now let's come back to our password. So here, before we save this user password, we're going to encrypt. We're going to encrypt the password, right? So for that, we're going to create a beans that we actually encrypt, that we encode this password before it can be saved to the database. So for that, here I'm going to come here to create a new package called security. So I'm going to call this package security, and in here I'm going to right click on the security package and create a new package called a new class called user registration So we're going to call this class user registration security config. This registration security, is it correct? I supposed to be here. Security config, is the config correct? It's correct. What happened? Oh, maybe I made a mistake. Sorry, I made a mistake here. This is not what I wanted to do. Okay, let me just right click on this and create a new class. Oh, so here user registration security config. So I'm going to click on this, and what I'm going to do here is to remove it from here. I'm going to delete this. This one is a mistake. So remove, and so we're going to move it here, right? So let's move into security package. So now I'm going to remove this. I don't need this one here. It was a mistake. So remove that package here. So now this class here is where we're going to configure all our beans. So for that, we're going to use an annotation called at configuration, right? And next, we're going to enable web security. At enable web security here, this annotation here. So these are the two annotations we need for now. So now let's create a beans called password encoder that will enable us to encode our password, right? So here I'm just going to say public password encoder, and I'm going to call this beans password encoder. So what we're going to return, we're just going to return a new instance of bcrypt. So we'll return new bcrypt password encoder. So that is all we need. Here we're going to annotate this with the bean annotation to make it a valid beans, right? So now we're going back here. We're going to inject. So let's inject the beans we've just created to our user service. So for that, we're going to say private password encoder. This one's going to be final. We're going to make this one final so that it can be auto-wired. It can be injected by this annotation we got from Lombok, right? So we are using this annotation to inject all this one the constructor to auto-wire all these ones through the constructor, right? So that is why you can see here require args constructor, and this annotation can only pick fields that are marked as final. So any field here that is not marked, that is not final, is not going to be auto-wired by this annotation here. Okay, so take note of that. So what here, we're going to come here to say password encoder dot encode dot encode. So we have password encoder dot encode, and here we're just going to call registered dot password here. So that is all we need to save our user to the database. So now, before we go ahead, we're going to create this class. This exception is our custom exception class, right? So now I'm going to, for that, I'm going to create a new package here called exception. So this one we're going to call exception, right? Exception. So we're going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK, yeah, and OK. Okay, so this one has been created. So we're going to make this one to extend runnable runtime exception here, and for that we're going to let me just pick a constructor from here. So just pick this from here. So that is all we need, and so this is all we need for now. This is all we need for now, right? So this is all we need for now. So now I'm going to close this down. I'm just going to close this, and here the exception, the error has gone away. So now we have done, which means we have done with our user module creation, right? So now I'm going to close this down, and close this for now, and this one also, close this, and this one also, we're done with this, so we're going to close this as well. So the next thing we're going to do here is to create a controller. So let's create a user controller here, a controller class. So this one we just call user controller class, like this, user controller. And this one actually is going to be a REST controller as usual, and we're going to specify the request mapping. Here, and we're going to call this as users. And in here we're going to have a method that can actually get all users from our database. So we just say list. We'll be using list for this, okay? Here we just say list of users. Sorry, user ER. Yes, this is our user, and we say get users. And so here we're just going to return user service. So for now we're going to need the object of we're going to inject our user service class in here. So we say user service, and this one we're just going to call it user service, and it's going to be fine as well, so it can be auto wired through the constructor. So here we're going to have the Lombok annotation here at required arg constructors, so here, so that we can auto wire this. So straight ahead we're just going to call this return user service. Oh no, not user repository, this is user service. Oh sorry, what have I done here? We don't need this here. Did I do this? How? Really? Okay, actually what we need was the user service. So what we just need here is return user service dot get users. So this is what we just need here. It's simple method here to actually get all users from our database. So this one here is going to be at post request. No, not at post. This one is at get, because we are getting users. So this one is going to be get mapping here of users, right? I'm just going to put this in the way formatted. And so this is what we need to actually get to, or for us to get our users from the database, right? For now, we're going to close this down. So now we're going to create, we're going to go back to our registration package. So we're going to create a registration controller. So this is where we're going to an endpoint for us that we're going to use to register user, right? So here I'm just going to say this one as registration controller. So this one here, we have the registration request and we have the registration controller here. So I'm just to hit enter. And what we're going to be doing here is to actually register a new user, right? So for this, I'm just going to open this controller, and I think we're going to have, let me just a little bit lazy. So I'm going to copy those annotations because we're going to be needing the same thing. We're going to need the same thing here, right? But this one here, I'm going to change it to register. So this is what we need here. For that as well, we're going to need our user, the user service here. So I'm just going to copy this. Please, I'm sorry for copy and paste, but I'm kind of a little bit lazy today for typing. So now I'm just going to copy this here. This one is going to be auto-wired by this annotation as well, right? So this one is our user service. So we can inject it here to actually do the work of saving the user or restarting the user to the database, right? So now we're going to create an endpoint that will actually do the registration process for the user, right? So for that here, we're going to have we're going to create a post. We're going to create a method, an endpoint. So this one is going to be public user. I'm going to make this one a string because we're going to be returning a string message to the user after the user has successfully registered, right? So here I'm just going to say, okay, string register user. And for this, we're going to need the registration request we created last time, this one here. So we're going to need this, and we're just going to call it registration request as well. Maybe we're just going to say request, right? Or let's just call it registration request here. Now, so what we're going to do here is to actually we're just going to call the user service to actually register the user. So for here, we're going to have user, because we're going to return the user that we just saved to the database. So we're going to just say user service dot save, or maybe dot registered. Okay, cool. Dot registered user. So we're going to say user registration request, right? And this one we're going to import from our own package. So this one here, I'm just going to terminate. Now we're going to, what we're going to do here, so after the user have been saved to the database, so here we're going to publish an event, right? So we're going to create an event publisher. We're going to publish registration event here. So we're going to come back to this in a moment. So for now, we're going to return a message to the user. So if everything went well, so we're going to return a message to the user. So we're just going to say success. So now we're going to say, please check your email. Check your email to confirm, to complete. Check your email for registration request. sorry, for registration confirmation, right? This grammar is too much, so I just want to give a simple message here, like please check your email to complete your registration, something simple like this. This one is okay. Okay, so if everything went well, so the user is going to, we're going to return this message to the user, right? So that when the user open their email to confirm their registration, so that is when they can log into the system. So now, like I said, we are going to come back to this here, because here, after the user has been saved to the database, we are going to publish an event, right? So before we do that, I'm going to just annotate this with @post, sorry, @post mapping, before we forget, register, right? Now we're going to, so for that, we're going to create a package called event, so that we can create an event to publish, right? So now I'm going to create another package here called event package, and this one is going to be called event. And inside this package we're going to create an event, right? We're going to create an event. So this event here we're going to publish. So what event are we going to publish here? Is registration event. So this event, this publication is going to lead to the sending of the email to the user, right? So for now, we're going to create a class here called use registration complete event. So here I'm going to create a new class called registration complete event. Sorry, this one is event, registration complete event. So this is going to be here, and this one here is going to extend the application event, right? So here we're going to extend the application event, and here we're going to have so before this we're going to, before we create constructor, we're going to have some field here. So we're going to have the field, so here we're going to have private user, because this is the user we're going to let's do the import here. So this is the user we're going to publish the event for, right? So here we're going to have another field here, string type, because here we're going to call this application URL. Now this URL is this application URL. So this is the URL we're going to build to send along to the user email. So when they click on this URL, they should be able to verify their emails, right? So that they can log into the system, right? Now, having done this here, I'm just going to have the Lombok getter and setter, So this annotation is coming from Lombok. Okay. So now we're going to generate. Let's create a constructor. This, and here. What I'm just going to do, I'm going to generate my own constructor so we can actually so we can take this, okay, the same thing. Yeah, so we can take these two here and just click OK. So this one here, we're going to call this the user, right? And call this user. And oh, sorry, we got it there already. I'm sorry, my mistake. So now we're going to change this to user. So this one is the user, right? So I think this is all we need to do with our event registration complete event here. So now we're going to go back to our registration controller to actually publish the event. Okay, so for that we're going to get a handle of the application event publisher, right? So we're going to get the application event publisher here. So we're going to say private application event publisher, this one here. So we're going to need this one here from Spring, and we're just going to call it publisher, right? And this one is going to be final because we're going to inject it. So we're just going to make it final here, final, and terminate. So here we're going to call the publisher to publish the event, publisher dot publish event. So what event are we publishing? So if you look here, this one is expecting application event. So now we're going to call the application registration complete event we just created. So here we're just going to say new registration complete event, this one here. And here we're going to pass in the user, and so here we're going to pass in the application URL, but here we don't have it, so we're going to create a method whereby we're going to, so I'm going to make this a full screen. So we're going to create a method where we're going to build this URL. So here I'm just going to add it application URL for now. And for that, we're going to need something here. Final, we're going to have a final. So here we're going to need the servlet, the HTTP servlet that will actually get us that we get this message for us, right? That we get the URL for us, right? So now we're going to have the HTTP servlet request here. So here I'm just going to say HTTP servlet request, this one here, and I'm going to call this request. So I'm going to pass this request in here. I think our font is becoming too big, so it's going out of screen. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see everything we're doing here. Okay, cool. So now we're going to build this URL. Okay, so we're going to build this URL. So here I'm just going to create a method, but I'm going to make it a public. Maybe we can use it somewhere else, right? So now what we're just going to do, we're going to return a URL that we've built, right? So for here we're going to get the server name, the name of the server, the port, and the context path of our application, right? So that the user can actually click on that link, so that the link can actually link back the user to our application to verify their registration before they can log into our application, right? Okay, so for that I'm going to just return a string of URL, right? So here we're just going to say HTTP and double slash plus. So we're going to get the name of the server, request.get server name. So we're going to get the name of the server, and after getting the name of the server, we're going to add colon right here before the port. So now we're going to get the port name. So we're going to say plus request.get request.get server port, the port of the server. And after that, we're going to get the context path. So we're going to say request.get context path here. So this is all we need to build the link, the URL we're going to send for the user, right? So now this is what we're using here right now, right? Okay. Now I think we are done with this for now. Let me zoom out a little bit. I think our font is too big, and let me open it up here. Okay, cool. So now we are successfully. So this what this one is doing here is to actually register the user to our database, and when the user is saved successfully to our database, then the application we're going to publish an event, right? So what event are we publishing? We are publishing this event, our registration complete event. Now, how are we going to send this email? Now the event has been published. Now we're going to create a listener, another class, a listener class that we actually listen to this event publication, so that that listener is going to be the one to actually send the email to the user, right? Okay, so for that, I'm going to come here. I'm just going to copy the name of this class. Where is the class here? Yes, I'm going to copy the name of this class, and I'm going to go to our event folder, our event directory. So I'm going to create a new package here. So this package, I'm going to call it listener. So this one is going to be the event listener, right? So inside this listener, we're going to create a class called registration complete event listener. So that was the reason why I copied this, because it's a long name. So what I'm just going to do here is to add the listener to the end here, right? So we're going to create this here, and this listener here is going to extend. So this listener is going to extend the application listener right here. So it's going to extend our application listener. Not actually extend, it's going to implement the application application listener here, and this one is a generic. So we're going to, so what are we listening? What event are we listening here? So it's the registration complete event. So that is what we're going to pass here. Registration complete event, this one here. So this is the event we're going to be listening to, right? I'm going to make it a full screen. Maybe I'm going to break it down. Let me break it down, because our font is big, right? So let me break it down so we can see it clearly. So now so this is the event we're going to be listening to, right? So this one is the registration complete event listener, and this one is the registration complete event, right? So we'll be listening to this event to actually send email. So now we're going to implement the method in here. We're going to implement this method here, right? So now in here, inside this method, I'm going to give us a roadmap. So things we're going to do here, to actually steps we're going to follow to actually send the email. So now number one here, the first thing we're going to do here, number one. So here we're going to get the newly created user, that the newly saved user, right? The newly registered. So we're going to call this one the newly registered user. Registered user. And number two, we're going to create, after getting the user, we're going to create a verification token for that user. Create a verification token for the user. This one is the user. Create a verification token for the user. Then number three, we're going to actually save that verification token for the user. Save the verification token for the user. This one is token, not token. It's not token, it's token, right? So now number four, we're going to build the URL. So number one, we get the user. Number two, we create, after getting the user, we're going to create a verification token for the user. Then after the verification token has been created, so we're going to save it to the database. We're going to save it for the user, right? And number four, we're going to actually build the verification URL. Verification URL, and to be sent to be sent to the user. And number 5, we're going to actually send the email. So number 5, so these are the steps we're just going to follow. Okay, so send the email. Cool. So we're going to take this one step by step. We're going to take them one after the other, right? So before I forget, we're going to make this one a component, because it's going to be a Spring Bean. So make it a component, and we're going to inject a couple of dependencies here. So for that, we're just going to have this annotation from Lombok, so we can actually inject some dependencies here, right, that can help us to complete this job. Here I'm going to zoom in a little bit, or zoom out. Is it zoom out or zoom in? I don't know, maybe zoom out, right? So we're going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so now the first thing we're going to do here is to actually get the user. So here I'm just going to say user, the user equals so here we're going to get our user from the event. Remember, we have already gotten our user in this event. So if we go here, we have the user here already, right? So we're going to get our user from the event. So we're just going to say event dot get user, right? And this one we're going to import the class here. And number 2, we have gotten the user. So the next thing we're going to do is to create the verification token. So this one is going to be of type string token. So we're going to create the token. So we're going to call this verification token. So we're going to call this verification token, right? So I'm just going to say verification token here. And so this one is going to be UID. We're just going to get it from UID dot random dot to string, right? So now we have gotten the user, and here we have gotten the we have generated the token, right? So the next one here is we're going to save the verification token. So we're going to come back to this one later. We're going to come back here because we're going to actually create an entity class for this verification token, because we are going to be saving this to the database. So which means this one is going to be an entity, it's going to be a table in the database. So we are going to come back to this one in a moment. So now I'm going to jump to number 4. I'm going to jump to number 4 here. Number 4. So number 4 here, we're going to build the URL, right? So here I'm going to say string URL. So this one we're going to get the event. Now event dot get application URL. So this one here we're going to say plus here, which means, because now this application URL, the link to the verification is going to come, it's going to be coming from the registration controller here. So which means we're going to create an endpoint here for the verification, for the email verification, right? So now we're going to just have this. We're going to build the URL here. So I'm going to say register here, and so the name of the endpoint we're going to create is called verify email. We're going to call it verify email, or verify your email. Is it okay? Let's just say verify email. So let's call this verify email here. And now this verify email is going to take a parameter here. So we're going to append a parameter here, the token, which is the token. So we're going to append the token parameter here, and then we're going to get the generated token, the token we have generated from here. Okay, it's called verification token here. So now this is the link, this is the URL we're going to send for the user for verification. Now, like I said, this verification is going to be done through the registration controller here. So that's why we are getting this one here registered, and we are going to create an endpoint here with the name of this here. Where is it? With this name here, verify email. So that is where we're going to verify the email. And this one here, we're going to have a parameter, the token parameter, that we're going to embed into the URL that user we actually click to verify the registration, right? So now we're going to send the email. But for now, we're just going to log. So let's just log this to the console to see the URL we actually generated, right? So for that, I'm going to have the XL4J here, the XL4J here. So now we're going to log in. We're going to log the URL we've generated in the console so we can actually see what we've generated, right? So for that, I'm going to call the log.info, and we're just going to specify a message here for the user to click, right? Click the link to verify your registration, right? Or maybe to complete. Click the link to verify your registration. So now we're going to pass in the URL we've just built, right? So this is all we need. Here. So this is all we need to. This is the message we're going to get the user to click on the link that this URL, this link we've built here, right? That contains the token, right? So they can actually verify their email. Okay, now that we have done with this, we are going to come back to number 3. So now we're going to actually save. We're going to save the verification token. So for that, I'm going to come here and so we're going to create a new package. And this package here, I'm going to create it inside the registration package. So I just want everything about registration to be in there. So I'm going to call this one as token. So this package is going to be called token. So here I'm going to create a class called verification token. Verification token, and I'm going to hit on enter, right? So now we need some what do we need to what are the things we need to verify here? So now we're going to have the ID. The token is going to have the ID because it's going to serve as an entity. This one here is going to serve as a table in our database, so it's a complete entity. So we're going to have the ID, the token, and some couple of things here. So the first thing we're going to have here is the ID. So here I'm going to have the private long. It's going to be of type long ID. So we're going to have the actual token of type string. So string. So the actual token, we're going to have the token here. And now we're going to have the expiration time for the token. So the token is going to have expiration time. So when that time elapses, so the user will no longer be able to verify, except it requested for it's going to request for a new token to be sent. So now we're going to say expiration time. So we're just going to call this expiration time. So let's do the import for the dates. Yeah, we'll take this from java.util. Now, because this token is going to be generated for the user, so we need a way to tie the token to a user, right? So this token is going to have a one-to-one relationship with the user, right? So for that, we're going to have the object of the user. So here we're just going to have the private user, the user, right? This one's going to be the user right here. So let's do the import. Oh no, do the import here. Import from our package. Okay, from our package. So now we're going to make use of the Hibernate annotation, the one-to-one annotation for Hibernate, right? Okay, so now we're going to find a way to join to include the user into the verification token table, right? So for that, we're going to have the adjoint column, and we're going to call this, the name of this one is going to be called excuse me excuse me. So this one is going to be called user ID, right? So this is the name this is how we're going to join the user to this verification token table. So now we're going to make this one an entity. So we're going to make use of the Lombok annotations here at getter, at setter, at entity, and we're going to have a no arg constructor as well. No arg constructor, because we're going to be creating a couple of constructors for ourselves here. So we're just going to have this one as no arg constructor. So now let's specify the ID, and let's tell Hibernate how this ID is going to be generated. So let's say the strategy, and this one is going to be identity here, right? So basically I think this is all we need for now. This is all we need to do. So now let's generate a constructor. Let's create a constructor. So using Windows, I'm just going to click on the Alt key and insert to generate a constructor, and this constructor is going to take the user and the token, right? Oh no, not all. Here, no, yeah. So the user and the token is going to be here, right here, right? Now what we're just going to do, we're going to get the expiration time, right? So here we're going to say this dot expiration time equals. So this one here, we're going to create a method that will actually calculate the time for us, that will calculate the expiration time for us, right? So now I'm going to have, so we're going to create this method in a moment. Get token expiration, get token expiration time. Is that correct? And this one is going to be a method, right? Expiration time is correct. So now let's create this method. Before we go on, before we do other things, let's create this method to actually calculate the expiration time, right? I'm going to change this to public. Maybe we can use it somewhere else. So the first thing we're going to do here is to get the calendar object, and we're going to call this calendar, and we're going to get the new instance, of the calendar, the static method. We're going to call the static method to get instance here, and now we're going to set the time. Calendar.set time in millisecond. Now this time we're setting here is the time when the token is generated. in our system, right? New date dot get time. So we're going to get the actual time this token will be generated in our system. And after that, we're going to add a few minutes or a few seconds to this, so that so we're going to have the add, and here we're just going to call the calendar.add minutes, right? Dot minutes. And now we're going to specify, we're going to create a constant here. I could have just add here maybe like 10 minutes or maybe 15 minutes, but what I just want to do here is to, I want to make it a little bit standard. So here I'm going to create a constant here, because we might use it in another place. So I don't want to, it's not good to so what I just want to do is to make this one a constant. We're going to make this one a constant here, right? So for that, I'm going to have a private static. We'll make it a static final int, and so this one we're going to call it expiration time. Expiration, a constant, right? Expiration time, and we're going to set this to 15 minutes. So now we are telling the system that it is correct. Expiration, we're missing I here. I, so this one is correct. So now instead of writing this one here, we're just going to say expiration time here. I'm going to put it here. Cool. And after that, we're going to return the new date, right? So here we have return new date. This from Java util. So here we're going to have the calendar dot get time dot get time. So this is all we need to do to get to calculate the expiration time of our token, right? Okay, so now we are done with our token entity. So another thing we're going to do here, I'm just going to maybe this one is not necessary, but I think maybe we might need it later. So I'm just going to create another constructor here that will take only the token. So in case we want to make use of the token alone, we can just make use of the token alone here, right? So this is what actually what we need to do. Here, let's just maybe call the super constructor, the empty constructor from the super. Here, let's make it here too. It's just a convention. It's not really, it's not something that we must do, but just for some reasons I have to do that. Okay, so now we are done with our verification token creation. So now I'm just going to close it down, right? So now I'm going to close this down, just close it down. And so we are going to go back here. We're going to go back to the save method. We're going to go back to save our verification token for the user, which is the number 3 that is pending. So now here we have, so for that, because here we're going to call the user service to actually save this token for the user, right? So for that, we're going to get a reference to, the user service. So we're going to inject, we're going to have it as a dependency here. So we're going to inject the user service dependency. So user service, right? So we're going to make it final, so it can be injected final. So it can be injected by this annotation here from Lombok, right? So now we're just going to call the user service dot save, and this method is not yet in existence in our user service class. So then we're going to create this method in our user service class. Okay, so now I'm just going to call this method as save user verification. User verification. This one is save user verification token. And so we're going to have the user and the token. Okay, we call this verification token, right? Verification token. So these are the things we're going to save for the user. So now we're going to create this method in our user service class. Okay, so I believe this is what we just need. So right here we get the user, and what we did again, we create a token, we generated a token for the user, and after that we generated a token. After that we saved the token for the user, and then we built the URL, the confirmation URL, and then we sent the email, right? So now we're going to create this method inside our user service class. So we're going to create the interface, then we're going to go to our user registration class and implement it. So user service, sorry, not user registration, it's called user service. So now we're going to implement this method. Implement and implement, right? So now we're going to implement this method to actually save the user verification token to our database, right? So for that we're going to make use of the verification entity we've just created last time. So for that I'm going to say verification token. So we're going to say verification token equals new verification token, this one here. So we're going to have this one here. And what do we need here? We need the user and the verification token, right? So we have the user and the verification token. Here, what happened? Verification token. So let me just shorten it. Let me shorten it here. And so let's just have the token here. What happened? Oh, here, token. This one here. So required string provided. Okay, this one is token, and here is the user. So having done this, so we're just going to call the token repository. So now we have not gotten a repository for the token to actually save. So we're going to go back here and create a token verification repository. So for that, I'm going to copy the name of this class, and we're going to go here to create a repository for this token, right? So here I'm going to paste it here and just add repository here. So this one is going to be an interface, and this one is going to extend, sorry, it's going to be extend the JPA repository, and this one is going to be of verification token, and the ID is long, right? So this is all we need here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see it clearly. So this is all we need here. So this optional is optional. You can say okay at repository, you can say at repository, right? But it's optional. This one is not needed, it's optional. So there's no need of, I'm not just going to put it here. No need, because let's maintain convention. I've not been putting it, right? So now we have this here created for us. So now we're going to grab the, we're going to inject it here. So here we're going to get a reference to the user repository. Oh, we've got it here already. User repository. Oh, sorry, this is user repository. So what we need here is the token repository. So here we have private verification token repository. This one here, this one. So we're just going to call this one token repository, right? And we're going to make this final as usual, so we can auto wire, right? So now we're going to come here to say token repository save verification token here. Okay, so now this is all we need to save the verification token for the user, right? Which is this method here we are calling. Okay, right now I think we are about to get to the testing point of our application. So I'm going to close all this. I'm getting confused because we opened too many tabs. So I'm going to close all this. So what we need right now, I'm going to open this registration controller to see what we've gotten so far. So I'm going to remove this one here, since we have sent it already. So I'm going to remove it so it will be cleaner, right? Okay, now what we're going to do here is to test our application. But before we test this application, we're going to open up our resource file, our application properties. So I'm going to rename this one to YAML. I'm going to name this one to YAML, YML, and I'm going to refactor right here. And for this, we're just going to grab some properties. We're going to grab some properties and just put them there. These are the same thing we have been doing from time to time, right? So it's nothing new. So here, I'm just going to grab these properties here and just paste some properties here, right? So this one is number thing. There's the port, the server port. This is our database, the username, the password, just for the demo purpose, and all this. So you can just pause and make sure you have this set in your property file. You can make use of the dot properties. You can make use of .yaml. Depends on what. I just want to make use of this for some reasons, right? So now we have gotten this here. I put this on create because we're going to create our database, our tables, our entities, right? So we're going to create. So now I'm going to close this down. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to run our project, so that we just want to make sure that our project run up to this point, because we have done so many things here. We have done so many things, right? So we are going to test what we have done so far, so that if there are any errors, so that we can fix those errors before we continue with our journey, right? Okay, so for that, I'm going to hit on the play button to actually run this project to see what we have gotten so far. So here I'm going to enable, and okay, so we can see that our application has started successfully without any errors, and Spring Security has given us a default password here, right? But right now we have not gotten anything. There is nothing in our database. So let's swing over to, and we'll see here that our table has been created. The token verification table and the user table has been created for us. So let's swing over to Mysql Workbench to refresh. Let's refresh. And here we have the registration DB. And here I'm going to open up. So here we have the user. So here we have the user table, and we have the verification token table. So here we have the user ID, the token, and the expiration time, right? And we'll close this, and we'll close this as well. So now we have created, our application has run successfully, and our table has been created, and Spring Security has generated a default password for us. But right here we have not done any configuration. whereby we can actually have any endpoints to log in right now. So now that our application has started successfully, so I'm going to shut down the server again. I'm going to shut down the server. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to find a way to get some users in our database. So we're going to open up our security package so that we can actually make some configuration, so to speak. So we can make some configuration on how to get some users in our database. Okay. So now the first thing I'm going to do here is to create a user detail class. So for that, I'm going to right click on this our security package and create a new class called I'm going to call this one registration. User registration, registration details. So we'll say user registration details. So this one is going to extend, or it's going to implement. Here we have implement. So this one is going to implement the user details from Spring Security. User details, right? So what we're doing here right now is to this is what we've done before, normal user details implementation. So in case you're not familiar with doing this, there's a video on my channel that actually we talk about, we make a demo on how to Spring Security, that basic authentication with Spring Security. Then we actually create all this from the scratch, and we talked about all this, how it works. So there's a link below this video that will actually lead you to that video, so you can watch that video and actually get all we have done in that video. We've done a lot of things in that video that actually will give you insight to how all these things are working, right? So now we're going to implement a couple of methods here. We're going to implement all this method here. So we're just going to click on OK here. Good. So now the next thing we're going to do is to get our own user defined object, so that we can actually get a handle of the password, some of the properties of our user, so that we can actually get a new user created, and we can actually log in. We can actually register and log in and our users, right? So for that, I'm going to create a constructor here. Not a constructor. I'm going to create some attributes here of the user. So we're going to get the username. So this one is going to be type string username here. And next we're going to have private string the user password, right? So we're going to have the password, and the next one we're going to have is a Boolean type to actually check if the user is enabled or not. So here we're going to say is enabled. So we're going to make use of this in a moment, right? Now this one here, is what we're going to flip to actually, when the user registered, is going to be disabled, right, for the first time. But after the email verification, it's going to be enabled, so that the user can actually log in, right? So we're going to see all this in a moment. So now we're going to have the authority of the user. So here we are expected to return a list of authority. This one here, you see, a collection of our granted authority. So here we're going to use the list of granted authority, and we're just going to call this one authorities, this one here. Okay. So now I'm going to generate a constructor where we can actually fix all this inside, right? So here I'm just going to take this everything here and click on OK. But now I'm going to remove some things, because I'm not going to because of this one, that's why I take all this. So now I'm going to remove all this here. I'm going to remove all this because I just generated this so that I can get all this one for free. I'm lazy to type. So now we're going to have our user object, our own user object, where we can get a handle on the password and some of the properties of the user. So here we're going to import. Let's import the class, yes, from our own package. So here I'm just going to say user dot get email, because the username is our email. That is, our email is the username, right? So I'm just get the email, and this one we're going to get the password. Password is password everywhere. So dot get password, right? So this one will get password, and this one here we're going to say user dot is enabled. User dot is enabled. So that's what we're going to have here. And now this one here we're going to find a way to get, because a user can, we are expected to return a list, a collection of this, right? Because a user can have more than one authority, my user, admin, moderator, and stuff like that. So, but right here, because of this demo, our user just only have one row, maybe, right? So now, but we are expected to return a collection of this. So that's what we're going to do here right now. So because of that, we're going to have array of this. Sorry, arrays dot string. So now we're going to get the user row, user dot get row here, and here we're going to split user get row dot split in here. We're going to call this split method, and now we're going to split with comma, right? So that in case the user has more than one row, so those rows are going to be separated by comma. That's what we're doing here. So now we're going to actually map this, map to simple granted authority, simple granted authority. Here we'll have this. So I'm going to break this down so we can actually see clearly what we are doing here. So I'm going to break this down and break this down, and then we're going to collect this. We're going to collect them to a list. So that's all we need. So here I'm going to break it down. So this is all we need here. So now we are done with this. So what we're just going to do here, we're going to come here to return authority, and here we're going to return the password. Here's the password returning, and here we're returning the username, and here we just do return true, and this one too we're returning true, just for this purpose, because we don't have anything to do with this for now. But this one here we're going to return is enabled here. So that is all we need to do here to get our user details class, right? And in here, this user details class, we're going to have, we're just going to annotate this with our data so we can just get our getter setters and some other things that we need for this class to work properly, right? So now we are done with this. We're done with this. So the complete project code, you can follow the link below this video to go to my Git repository to actually get the complete code for this project, so you can actually understand what we are doing, because we have done so many things. This video is long. We have so many things to do here because of the kind of demo we are trying to do today, right? So now I'm going to close down this, and the second one we're going to create is the, I'm going to open this again, and I'm going to copy this, the name of this class, because we're going to create another class here. So we're going to create the service for this class. So I'm going to paste user registration details service, right? So we're going to add service to this. I don't know if the name doesn't sound well, but I just want to do it like this for the purpose of the demo. So definitely we have the user details and we have the user detail service, right? So now I just add this one here to indicate our own user defined one, right? So that is why I just added that one to it. So now this one also is going to implement the user details, the user detail service from the Spring Security. Implement user details service, user details service. This one here is coming from the Spring framework. So now we're going to implement the method here, the load by username. So now this one here, this is the method that will help us to actually load a user from the database to actually log in a user into our application, right? And now this one is a service, so we're just going to say add service annotation, and we are going to inject some dependencies here. So for that, we're going to actually have this a Lombok annotation again to actually inject some of some dependencies here. So what is the dependency we're going to inject here is nothing but our user repository, right? So for now, we're just going to have private user repository, user repo. This one here is what we need. So I'm just going to call this user repository. And this one here, we're going to make final as usual so that it can be auto-wired by this annotation here. Right. Okay, good. Now, having done this, so we're going to actually return, the user from the database, right? I'm going to change this to email because we are finding our user by email, because the email, we make our email as the user ID, right? So now we're just going to return user repository dot find by email. We're going to make use of that find by email method we created last time, and we're going to pass in the user email, right? Now this one is optional, right? It's optional, so we're going to actually handle this. So we're going to map it to our user detail. Now if we look here, we are returning user details. So but we are getting, we're trying to get a user. So what we're going to do, we're going to convert the user to our user details. So there's a video in my channel where we actually when I made about Spring Security, basic authentication with Spring Security, and also there's another video on this channel where we make a demo on JWT authentication with Spring Security, right? So all the link to these videos, I leave them under this video, below this video, so you can just follow this link to watch those videos so that you can actually see what we've done in those videos. They are very good ones that will actually give you insight into how Spring Security actually works from scratch, because in those videos we actually develop everything from scratch, and we talk more in that video, right? So I really encourage you to take a look at those videos so we can actually see what we've done in those videos, right? Okay, so having said that, we're going to have this one here as our user registration details. This one here is what we need, and we are going to break this down, and because it's optional, we're going to guard against non-pointer exception. So we're going to use the all else through, right? This one here, and then we're going to throw the new username not found exception, right? So here we just say this using our lambda expression here. So we'll say new user not found exception, and I'm going to break this down as well. I'm going to break it down, and so we're just going to pass a simple message here. Simple message, we just say user not found, just as simple as that, right? Okay, so I think this is all we need here for this our user details class. So this is all we need to actually fetch a user from the database, right? Okay, cool. So now we are done with this. So the next thing we're going to do here is to actually test run our application so that we can try to create some users in our database, so that we can start our demo proper, right? Okay, so for that, I'm going to hit on the run button here. I'm going to hit on the play button so that we can actually run this project and try to create some users, right? Okay, so now we can see that our project has started successfully, and here our project has started successfully without any error. So now let's go to Postman. I remember something. Before we go to Postman, we're going to actually configure this. Let's open up our configuration class. So I forgot, we have not configured anything here. We have not tell Spring Security how we're going to access our URLs, right? So we see that we have gotten some endpoints here, right? Some APIs here. We have the user API, and also we have the registration API, right? But now Spring Security has not known about this ones here, right? He has not known about all those things. So what we're just going to do here is to declare all these for Spring Security to know about them, so that Spring Security can actually manage them for us. So for that, I'm going to shut down the server again. Okay, so right here, we're going to create a new bean called security filter chain, right? So now we're just going to have the public security filter, this one here, security filter chain. I'm just going to call it security filter chain, and this one is going to take the object of the HTTP security, this one here, and we are going to call this one HTTP. Okay, so now we're going to return. This is the normal configuration we'll be doing, right? So we have done this over and over again in most of our in course of our demo, right? So it's not new, right? So now we're gonna disable this, and that's CSOF. Dot disabled. Dot disabled dot authorize request dot request matches, right? So I'm going to break this down, and let's break it down so we can be a little bit clearer with what we are doing. So this one I'm going to just say that permit all. Then after that, we're going to continue with the one we're going to secure, right? Dot and authorize request. Let's keep breaking this down. Let's keep breaking it down. Break this one down as well. And authorize request dot request matches. So this one's here. The users that can access this one here are those that have in the correct grammar. Those that have any role. I just want it to be any role. If you have the user role, you can access this. If you have the admin role, you can access this. Because in this application, we just have only two roles, only two authorities, the user and the admin. So we want both the user and the admin to be able to access the endpoints we're going to put here, right? So here I'm just going to say user and admin, user and admin. So I'm going to do this, and I haven't done that, so we're going to say that, and so we're going to get form for this for authentication, right? So dot add build and build. So this is all we need for this configuration. So this is all we need for Spring Security to handle our our endpoint for us. So this one here, the ones I'm going to allow is going to be registered. So we're going to allow every API coming from register. Where is the register controller? This one here. So we're going to allow every request that is coming from here. We're going to allow them for free. But every request that is coming from the user controller is going to be authenticated. So the only request we have here is just to view all users, right? So if you don't have any row, if you don't have row, maybe if you don't have the user row or you don't have the admin row, you cannot view all users. That's what we're trying to do here, just for the demo purpose, right? And this one here, we're going to say users, right? So this one is users. So now we're going to throw the exception here. So let's throw the exceptions, and we are going to annotate this with the bin annotation. Bin annotation. Okay, that's all we need. That's all we need for here, right? For this to work. So having done this, the next thing we're going to do here is to test run our application to see if we can create new users or not. Okay, because now we have not gotten any users in our database, so we cannot test any users right now. So what we're going to do right now is to actually run our application and see how we can create new users. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So for now, I'm just going to hit on the play button to run our application. Okay, so we see that our application has started successfully. So what we just need to do here is to go to Postman and see if we can create users or not. So here I have tested some users here before, so I'm just going to change this to Samson, and this one is going to be Alfred, right? And this one is going to be right at gmail.com. So the password is 12456, and this guy is a user. So I'm just going to hit on this. Okay, so we are still having a problem here. We're having a login problem. So let's check our console to see what the problem is. Oh, raw password cannot be known. Raw password cannot be known by crypt encoder. Okay, something is happening here. Raw password. It means our password is, our entity is empty, right? It's not getting values, right? Error through exception, request failed. Raw password cannot be known with root cause. Okay, there's something happening here. So okay, we actually got this error because raw password cannot be known because our entity is empty. All the attributes that are coming here is empty. All these ones here, all these ones are empty. You see, all these ones here are empty. Now, why are they empty? Because we forgot to request the body of the registration request. This one here, we forgot to request the body. Okay, so what we're just going to do here is to go back here at the controller, to registration controller, and here we're going to request the body. We forgot to do that. So here we're just going to say at request body, this one here. So this is the problem here. That is why we are getting raw password cannot be known, because we are not getting the body of this. We are not getting the body of this here. So that is why the attributes were empty, right? We are empty. So now this annotation is what I've put to request the body of this. Where is it? Here. So now let's try to run it again and see if it works or not. Okay, so the application has started again, and everything seems to be okay. So now let's go back to Postman and see if we can actually post a user right now, if we can create a new user right now. Before we do that, I just want us to check our database again. The user is empty, and the verification token is empty, right? So now let's go back to here. So I'm just going to hit on this and see what we got. Okay, cool. Everything works successfully, right? So here we see success. Please check your email for the oh, sorry, this is a wrong message. Check your email to complete your registration. Oh no, wrong. We're going to complete this. We're going to correct this later, right? So we're supposed to have check your email to complete. Check your email to complete your registration. This one is not here, right? Okay, cool. But and in whichever way, we've seen that a user has been created successfully. So let's go here. Let's see the user. Cool. So we have a user in our database called Fred, and we see that the is not enabled yet, right? So let's check the verification token. So here we got a verification token for the user with ID number 1, and this is the expiration time, and this is the verification token. Right now we're going to go to the console to see what we actually have right there in the console, right? So now if we go back to the console, we are going to see that a link has been generated, right? Let me zoom it out, zoom in, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. So we see that a link has been generated with the message the message we customize, right? Click the link to verify your registration. So this is the message. This is the link we'll be sending. We're going to embed into the message we're going to send to the user, right? The user email. Right now, let's try to do something. What is it called? This URL, this link, this verification link has been created, right? But right now we cannot verify because we have not implemented this this endpoint here. So since this endpoint has not been implemented, there is no way the user can verify their registration. But right now, let's just try to see, now that we have gotten a user in the database, let's try to see what happens if we try to log in, because now we see that the user has not been enabled, right? So which means he cannot log in yet. It's until the registration has been verified, the email has been verified to be valid, right? So what we're just going to do here is we're just going to pretend to log in the user, right? So let's go to go to the browser here, and I'm going to have the HTTP this, okay, here. So I'm just going to do this, and we're going to be redirected to login, right? So here I'm going to paste in the email, because the email is the username of our user, right? And the password we created was let's check here. Okay, cool. Now the password we created was 123456, right? So now let's try to put it here and see what happens. 123456. So let's go. So here we see the message that user is disabled, right? Actually, the user is disabled, because if we go back to our database, we see that the user has not been enabled. So we can see 0 here, right? So which means for now, the user cannot log into our system until the verification is completed, until he clicked on this link from his email, from their email, to verify their account. That is only when they can log into our system. So the next thing we're going to do right now is to implement. We're going to implement this endpoint. We're going to create this endpoint inside the register controller. Right here is asking us to log in because there's no endpoint like that. right? So now let's go to let's shut down the server. We're going to shut down the server so that we can start implementing this endpoint so that the user can actually click on this link to verify their registration. Okay, so now I'm going to shut down the server, and now we're going to go to our registration controller, this one here, right? So this is where we're going to implement that that verification here. This is where we're going to implement it. So now I'm just going to copy, where is it? Is here, is in the listener, right? Where is the event? Here is here in the listener. So I'm just going to copy this so that I will be exact. Okay, I'm just going to copy this, copy, and go back to the register controller and create this endpoint. So now I'm just going to say string public string, then I'm going to paste this verify email, and this one here is going to take the token, right? Because there's an embedded token here. This token here, this is the token right here. So we're going to take this token, right? So now I'm going to go back here to say string. I'm going to close this down so we have enough space. String token, and this one here is going to be a param, right? It's going to be request param. So we're going to say at request param, and this param is going to be the token here. And now I'm just going to do this as get, because this one is going to be get mapping, right? So this one's get mapping, and this one here is going to be here. So this is going to be the endpoint, right? So it's going to be register / verify your email. That's what we have here, register / verify your email, plus this param, which is the token here, and that is the token we are passing here right now. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do here is we are going to create a method, because this token here, the application is going to validate this verification by checking the database for this token, right? It's going to check if this token exists in the database. So which means we are going to create a method in our token repository called find by token, right? Because this is the token that we're going to find in the database if it exists or not. So this is the token we're going to use to validate the user, because there are so many things tied to the token: if the token exists or not, or if the token has expired or not, right? So those are the things we're going to find now. So for that, we're going to get the verification token class we created last time, verification token entity. Oh no, not this. Verification token, this one here, right? Cool, this one. So this one we're just going to call token, right? Verify token. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Verify token, right? So we're just going to call this the token. I just need a short name. So equals token repository. So for that, we're going to have, do we have verification repository here? Yeah, verification token repository. We're going to have the object here. So we're going to inject it here. So here we have private verification token repository. So we're going to put this here, and and this one we're going to call token repository here, and we're going to auto wire, which is finer. We're going to make it finer as well, so that we can auto wire, right? So here we're just going to call token repository dot find. This is a new method that we're going to create, that find by token. So this method is not already in existence in there, so we're just going to say the token, right? So now we are going to create this method in there in our token repository here. So the method has been created here. So this is called finder method, right? Find by the attributes, right? So now I haven't done this, so we are going to check. So we are going to validate if the user has already if this account has already been verified. So we are going to return a message to the user. Then if the account has not been verified, then we're going to proceed with the verification, right? So now let's check. So now we're going to say, if we're going to check the token, we're going to get the user from the token. So if token dot get user, if token, this is not token. So if the token dot get user dot is enabled. Now if the user is already enabled, it means the account has been verified, so there is no need of verification anymore. So now we're just going to return a simple string message to the user to tell the user that your account has already been verified. Okay, so just okay, this account has already been verified. This account has already been verified. Then please log in. Please log in. Please log in. So this is what we have here, right? Now, if this is not the case, if the account has not been verified, then we are going to proceed with the verification process. So for that, we're going to have string. We're going to create a string. We're going to check for the result of the verification, right? Here, there's another method we're going to create. We're going to create a method because now if the user has not been enabled, it means the account has not been verified, right? Now if the account has not been verified, then we are going to get the token. We're going to, after getting the token, then we're going to validate the token if the token is valid or not, right? So which means we are going to create a method to validate the token, right, in the token in the user service, right? So now we're just going to say, okay, string verification result. We're just going to call this one the result of the verification. So if the result is, if we get this token, we're going to check for some conditions in this token. Okay, so now we're going to say verification result equals user service dot. So we're going to validate this token, validate token. Now this method is not already in existence, so we're going to create this method, right? So now we're going to pass the token here, the token, just validate the token, right? So now we're going to verify again. We're going to check the outcome of this. We're going to check the outcome of this method. But before we do this, before we check, we're going to first of all create a method to validate the token before we come here to complete this method, right? So let's create this method in the user service, right? So here going to go to user service. What's the user service? Here, and we're going to implement this. So let's implement this this method. Okay, implement. So that is the method we have here, right? Sorry, excuse me. So this is the method we have here. So now let's actually check some things in this token, right? So now coming here, we see that the user has not been verified, right? So if the user has not been verified, then we are going to validate the token if that token is still valid or not. So which means if the token has expired, it means the token is not valid anymore. But if the token has not expired, it means it's valid, right? So those are the things we're going to check here right now. So to validate this token, we're just going to call the user repository to actually find that token for us so I can validate, right? So now let's say verification. So we're going to have the verification token, right here equals we're going to call the token repository dot find by token. So we're just going to pass in the token here, find this token right here. And now what do we have here? No, this one is sorry, I made a mistake. This one is supposed to be string. This one is string. Yeah, this one is string. So something must have happened here. What happened? Okay. No, what we are, this one here is token, not the token. We are getting token from here, this token here, right? So that is what we are getting from here. So what problem? Pull method token. Okay. I'm going to go here, where is it? And change this to string. So this one we're going to change to string. Okay, that settles the issue. So now let's go back here and the issue is gone. So now having gotten the token, so we're going to start the process of validating this token. So now we're going to check if the token is none or not, right? Which means, because the way we are configuring this one here, if the token has expired, it's going to be deleted from the database, right? So now when the user click on this verification link, the token repository is going to check the database to find if that token is still there. Now, if that token is there, it's going to validate if the token has expired or not. So if that token has expired, it's going to delete the token. So, and after deleting the token, it's going to come back with the user to say the token is invalid, right? It depends on the message we configured. So now, just for this, I'm going to say if token not equal empty equal none. If the token is equal none, then which means the token has been validated, has been deleted. So we're going to say return, we're going to just return a string, a plain message to the user. So we're going to say invalid because the token is not found. So we're going to say invalid verification token. So here we're just going to return a message to the user like this: invalid verification token. Now, if the token is found, now we're going to continue with the process of validating the token, right? Now for that, we're going to get the user from the token. So here we're going to say user, right, equals the token. So we're going to get the token dot get user. We're going to get the user from the token here, right? Now after getting the user, so we're going to call the instance of the calendar to check the expiration time of that token, right? If it still exists or not, if it's still valid or not, right? So now we're going to call the calendar object again, calendar, and we're going to call this a calendar equals calendar.get instance. So we're going to get the instance of this calendar, and now we're going to check the expiration time. So we're going to say if verification, if the token, if token.get verification time is, so now we're going to compare the time of the token with the time we set as the expiration time, right? So that's what we're going to do here right now. So here we're going to say if token.get expiration time, this one here, if gotten the expiration time, right, and .get time, right? Now if token.get expiration time .get time minus, so we're going to minus the time from the current time of the calendar, right? Minus calendar.get time .get time. Now if this token, if the time is less than that, if we check the time of the token and if find out that the token has expired, so what we're going to do, we're just going to call the repository to delete the token from the database. So there's no need of keeping expired token in our database, right? So that is what we're going to do here right now. So for that, we're going to call the token repository. So we have the token repository dot delete. So we're just going to delete the token dot delete token, right? Where's the token here? So we are deleting this token from the database, right? Now after deleting the token, we're going to return a message. So return token already expired. So we just say token already expired. Token already expired. So that is what we just gonna have here. What is happening here? Why are we having this boolean is and long? Meaning what? Okay. This one is verification token get expiration time. Let's see. Yes, get expiration time. So this one here, Okay, let me find out what happened. Okay, we have some issues here. So we have to compare. We need to compare this, like get time dot get time here. Okay, I think I'm going to write this here like this. Okay, so here we're going to say if this one is lesser or equals 0, lesser or equals 0 here. So this one here we're going to do here. Now if the token has expired, it's going to delete from the database and return this message to the user. Now if the token has not expired, then we are going to proceed to actually enable the user. So for that, we're just going to say user dot set enable true. So this one we're going to pass it to true. This one is true, right? Sorry, dot set. We're going to set it dot set enable true here. And after that, we're going to save the user again. So we're just going to call the user repository dot save the user, save it back to the database. Okay, so this is what we have here, right? So now after that, we're going to return a string with which we're going to proceed with the validation, with the verification, right? So now let's review what we just did here. So what we did here, we tried to validate the token. So the first thing we did here is to get the token from the repository, from the database, by using the token repository to find the token from the database. Now, if this token is not found, then we just, okay, this token is invalid. It's not found in the database, right? And if this token is found, if this token is found, then we're going to get the user from the token, right? That we're going to do here. Then after that, we're going to call the calendar to check. We're going to check the expiration time of that token. So if that token has expired, then we're going to delete this token from the database, right? And return this message. But if that token has not expired, then we are going to enable the user. It means the user has verified their registration successfully. So we are going to enable this user here, right? And then we are going to return this string here. That is this all about the validation. So like I said, the complete source code of this project is right there in my Git repository. So you can just follow the link below this video to download this project and read the code properly and try to study and try to understand it more. Okay, so that you can just try to play around the code so you can understand it more, right? So now let's go back to our excuse me. So let's go back to here to continue the verification of our to continue the verification of the email, right? The user verification. Now this is where we stopped last time, right? We said that if the user here, so if the user has if the user has been enabled, then it means the account has been verified. Then it should return this message. But if the user has not been enabled, then we are going to validate these tokens, which is the method we just created right now. So now we are validating this token now. So now let's check what we have in this verification result. So right now we're going to say if verification results, if verification result dot equal, because we are returning a string from the result, right, from that method. Now if the string return is this, if the string is invalid, which is the one we specify here, what is it here, which is this valid here, if this string is returned, it means the validation has been successful, right? So if that is valid, then what we do next, then we are going to return a message to the user to tell the user that the token, your registration has been verified successfully. So for that, we're just going to return a string message, right, to the user. So now we're just going to say, okay, email, I'm going to make this a proper sentence, like email verified successfully, successfully. Okay, email verified successfully. So now you can log in to your account. Now you can log into your account. Is that account spelling correct? It's correct. So now you can log into your account. Else return invalid. So we are returning the same string we returned last time, right? Invalid. There should be a way to do this so we don't repeat all the string everywhere. But just because of the demo, this is just a demo purpose. So I would just want to see how we can actually send email. So, but for production standard application, there a way we don't have to write messages everywhere like this. So we should actually configure our message in our property file and just call them in here, right? That is standard way of doing this in the industry. So now we have verification, invalid verification token. So this is all about validation, the verification here. So now we are done with the token verification, and we are about to start our server again and actually verify what we've gotten so far, right? Okay guys, so now I think this one is cool. We are done with the implementation of the method, right? So now I'm going to run the server again. I'm going to fire up our server and actually test our project. So for that, I'm just going to hit on the play button as usual. Okay, so now we can see that our application has started successfully without any errors. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go back to create a new user, and then after that we're going to try to validate or to verify the email, right? So now I'm just going to go back to Postman, and we have gotten a user in our database before. Let me check, maybe. Okay, cool. Our database has been wiped off. Again, before we move on, I'm just going to do something here before I forget. I'm going to change this configuration so that I will always have a user in our database. You know, I put this on create. This create means every time we run this project, everything we have in our database is going to lost. It's going to be, the table is going to be recreated, which means we're going to lose every information we have there. So, but now I'm going to change this to update. So this update here is not going to recreate the table, but rather is going to update if there are any changes we made to the entity. Is going to be updated in our database, right? So that is the purpose of this update here. Now I'm going to go back to Postman to actually see if we can create a user and actually verify the user. So now I'm just going to hit on this send again and see what we got. Okay, cool. So here we have the return message called success. Please check your email for to complete your registration. Now we made a mistake here. We're going to correct this later. So now let's swing over to SQL Workbench, and I'm going to refresh. So now we got a user here called Samson Alfred, and we see that the user has not been enabled, right? So let's go to the verification token and see what we got. So let's refresh. So here we see that we've gotten a verification token actually saved to the database for this user here, right? Now what we're going to do here is to go back to IntelliJ. Here we're going to actually copy the link that was generated for us. So now we can see that a verification link has been generated for us here, right? So what I'm just going to do here is to right click and copy. We're going to copy this URL, and we're going to go back to here. I'm going to go to the browser. Let's go to the browser, right? So here I'm going to refresh, right? So this one is showing invalid credentials because we've not input our credentials. So before we verify this email, let's try to log in with the newly created user to see if the user can be logged in or not. So after this, now we're going to actually verify our email. So now I'm just going to copy this here. So the password is 123456. So let's log in. So we see here user is disabled. So now let's go back to IntelliJ, to our console. Now I'm going to copy this URL and go back to the browser, and I'm going to open another tab and just paste this here. So we are going to verify this user. So let's hit enter. Now something is happening here. We cannot verify this. We cannot verify for some reasons. So let's check our configuration here. I'm going to remove this. Okay. So we have a mistake here. In here, the user registration here, we're supposed to follow by anything. We're supposed to say anything here by putting stars, right? Because this one here, if we go back to our registration controller here, we have the register here, but there is something here. So there is something followed, but the only one we allowed is this here. We didn't allow this, right? So that is why in here we just have to go back here and follow by double stars. So this one means register, and any request that begins with register should be allowed. Now this one here is the same thing. So we're going to say any request from the user API followed by anything should be authenticated, right? And the user that able to access this API, this endpoint, the user that has the admin, maybe admin or user role that can actually access this endpoint. But this endpoint here is free for everyone to access, right? Okay, for this, we're going to restart our server before we can retest. Okay, so let's just restart our server. Okay, so the application has started again, and so this time around we're going to go back to Postman, and now let's go back to Postman. So this one is still there, and let's go back to our database if we still have the user there. So here the user is still here, and it's not up to 15 minutes, right? Which means this token is a kind of valid. So let's go back to our console and actually, but the problem we have, maybe we still have it in the browser, right? Let's go back. Oh, our token is lost. We cannot find it again. Is it here? Oh, it's still here. It's still here on my clipboard, right? So now let's verify. Okay, cool. So now we can see here the message here, email verified successfully. Now you can log into your account. So now that the email has been verified, let's try to log in the user again. So, and this user here is let's go to database and copy, or let's go to Postman and just copy the email. This is the email and this is the username here. So I'm just going to right click and copy this, and the password is 123456, right? So now let's log in here, and 123456. So here you don't have authorization for this. Okay, now what we're going to do here, we're going to say users, because yeah, this user actually has the user row, right? So now let's go to user, and now we can see that we are able to actually fetch the user from the database, right? We have one user in our database, right? And we're able to fetch this user. So now let's create another user in our database. So this time around we're going to create a user called Rita, right? And Rita Alfred, and the email is going to be Rita here, and the password is going to be the same, and everything's going to be the same, but she's going to be admin. So Rita is going to be an admin user here. And now let's hit on the send button and see what we got. Okay, cool. Now a new user has been created, so let's refresh our database. Here now we got 2 new users, and now one of these users has been enabled. I forgot to show you, right? So now this user has been enabled here by showing 1, but this one here has not been enabled because here you can see that is 0 here. It doesn't be enabled. So now this user right now cannot log into our system because the user has not been enabled. But this one here that is being enabled can log in, right? So now let's go back to our browser and see what happens if we can have the 2 users from our database. Let's refresh. So now we got 2 users from our database, right? And now one of these users has been enabled here, true, but the second user here has not been enabled, right? This one enabled is false, but this one here enabled, what is it? Enabled is true here. It's true here. So now this user here cannot log in because she has not been enabled. So now let's try to see if we can actually log in this user by copying the email here. So I'm going to open a new incognito window here. So I'm going to say http the user here. So here we have asking the user to log in, right? So now we're going to paste here, and the password is 123456 here. So let's log in. So you see that the user is disabled because the account has not been verified, right? So now let's go back here to see, to actually verify the user account. So let's go back here. I'm going to right click on this to actually verify the account. So if I go here, if I open here and just put this here and hit enter, now the account has been verified. So let's go back here and log in the user 1 2 3 4 5 6. So let's log in, and you see that the user is able to log in, right? So which means we are able to create a user, and actually the user has been able to verify their account, their email, right? And after the email verification, they are able to log in, right? Okay, cool. So now what we are going to do next, the next thing we're going to do, right, I'm going to shut down the server. So let's go back here to the listener. So now what we are seeing in the console is this log here. This is the URL we are seeing here in the console. So but right now we are going to set up our email server. We're going to configure the Gmail so that we can actually send the real email to our Gmail account, so we can actually confirm by clicking our email, right? So that's what we're going to do next. This email, right? So for that, I'm going to go back to our YAML file, and I'm just going to paste in some properties here. So here, these are the things. These are the ones we've gotten before, right? And from here downward, the email that we have gotten before. This one here, right? So this one here is my email, and this is my password, and this is the Gmail configuration. Here you can see here. So make sure you get all these ones in your application file, right? So that we can actually send this re-email to the user. So now, having got this, you can just take a pause and write this, but make sure you this is my email. You have to put your own email and your password, right? Because you cannot use this. This is mine. You have no access to this, right? Okay. So now we are going to go back to the event listener and actually we're going to build our email here. So we're going to build our email message that we're going to send for the user here. So for that, we're going to create a method called send verification email. So the name of this method here is going to be like this. So we're going to say public void. So the name of this method is going to say send verification email here. And this one here is going to take the URL, the email URL. So we just say string URL. That's what we're going to send, right? Now we're going to declare a couple of variables here that we're going to compose our message. So here I'm going to have string subject. String subject equals email verification, that is the subject, and we're going to have the sender. So string sender name, let's say sender name, and this one is going to be so this is going to be we can just put any name there. So but I'm going to put registration. I'm just going to say user. I'm going to just put the name of our application, right? But you can put any name. You can put your name, you can put any company name, you can put your company name, you can put your website name, right? So but now I'm going to put the name of the application we are creating right now. So I'm going to say user registration portal. User registration portal service. So this is going to be the sender name, right? And now we're going to have the content of the email. So here we have string content. So this one here we're going to have so we're going to form some HTML here, but to save our time, this video is getting too long. I've already prepared this down before, so I'm just going to copy this and I'm just going to paste in this here because I've already prepared this before, right? So I'm just going to paste in here so we can actually continue from there, right? Here this one here I'm going to have Java mail sender. Now if you take note, we are actually doing this. There's a mistake. I made a mistake here. We cannot find these ones right now because we have not added the dependency here, right? But meanwhile, before then, we're going to inject the Java mail sender here, right? So here we have here I'm going to say private and it's going to be final because we're going to auto wire final Java mail. We don't have it here, so now we're going to go back to our POM file to add the dependency here. So we're going to add the dependency to send the email. So we're going to use Spring Boot's Spring Image Sender. So Spring Image Sender is actually is built to simplify the Java mail sender. So it makes sending of email easier, right? So here we have the dependency, and this one we're just going to say let's put mail if it will come out. It didn't come out, so let's say spring boot starter mail. Let's say mail. We don't. Okay, we have it here, and okay, we have it here. So now this is the dependency we just need to send the email. So this one here is actually built on Java email sender, right? Java mail sender, right? So now I'm going to reload our dependency, and let's go back here, and now we should be able to see this if it has finished reloading. So we have Java mail it's not showing yet, so let's go again. So have Java mail. It's not showing yet. What happened? This actually mail sender, right? Supposed to be. Let's see what happened. Okay, import class. So what happened? Okay, so it's here already, and now we are going to just do the imports. We are going to do all these imports, and this one here we're going to call this mail sender, right? Mail sender. Okay, so this dependency, you see the dependency we added. So this is the dependency that actually enables us to send email. This one here, spring mail, right? So now let's finish up with this. So this one here, let's import the class, and so something is missing here. Okay, this one here is okay, this user here. So you know what happens, I'm going to take up this user. So I'm going to take this user up, right? So I'm going to take it up here. So just going to say private user, the user, this one here. So this one, so what happened here? Okay, we're going to add exception, right? Okay, so to save our time, that is why I just copied this, because I have already done it before. So I just copy and paste it here. I've tested it for some time ago. So okay, so now let's go through what we have just done here. So here we've created a my message. So after we have formed our message here, we've composed our message here that we're going to set for the user. So right here we are sending the my message, and we're creating the message, the my message, and here we actually set the message here, and we set the from. So from where are we sending this email? So we are sending the email from this email here to the email that the user has input, right? So that is what we're doing here, and this is the subject of the email that we've declared here, and this is the content, which is this one here. We have declared here the content. So this is simple HTML I just formed here. You know, it's very easy, just normal HTML we're all writing, right? So now we're going to actually we're going to start our email, right? But before then, remember this one is supposed to be a component, right? And now let's call this method in here. So instead of logging this here, we are going to actually send the email here. So let's call send verification email here, and we are going to pass in the URL, which is the URL here. So here surround with trial cache. Okay, let's just make this one, collapse it. Okay, so this one is okay. There's no point of caching too much of things here. So now we are actually sending, so instead of logging this one here, so we are actually sending this email, right? So now let's start our project. Let's start our server and see let's see what actually, if we can actually send email to the user or not. Okay, so I'm just going to hit on the play button and start our application again. Okay, so we see that our application has started again without any errors, right? So what we're going to do right now is to head over to Postman and see what happened with this. Are we safe? Oh, I made a mistake here. I want to remove this. Yeah, so this one, okay, so okay, actually gets, I'm sorry guys, I made a mistake, so I'm just going to restart again. So now we see that our application has started without any errors, right? So what we're just going to do here is to let's head over to Postman to see if we can actually create and send email to a new user. So here I'm going to create this email here. I'm just going to create Samson. So this one's going to be Samson, and it's going to be Alfred, right? Alfred. This is Samson Alfred, right? And this email here, so this time around I'm going to put a re-email. We're going to put a re-email that we can confirm, right? Not fake email anymore. So I'm going to put my re-email so I can check for my email. So here I'm going to say Sam. Here I'm going to say Sam. This, let me check my email. Let me check this email address. Here. Okay, this is the email. Sam Alfred is the email. So that is the email I'm using right now. So Sam Alfred, yeah, is the email.com. So now let's hit on this register button if we got it or not. It's taking much time. Oh wow! So now we have success. Please check your email to complete your registration. This message is wrong. Okay. So now let's actually go back to our database and see if we have a new user there. Yeah, so we have Samson Alfred with unverified email, right? Unverified registration. So now as usual, let's go here. Let's copy this email and let's go to the browser. Let's go to the browser and say http user. So let's see if we can. So now we're asked to log in. So let's put this guy in and put the password 123456, and let's see what happens. So the user is disabled, right? So now let's open our email and see if we register. You see, so here we actually receive an email here. So now we receive an email verification, user registration portal service, right? So that is what we said here. Here, user registration portal service, that is the sender name we specify, and the subject here is email verification. So that is what we have here, email verification, and the sender is let me zoom in a little bit so we can actually see. Oh, there's too much. Okay, so now this is the email, right? So we have the verification, email verification, and user registration portal service, right? And this is the email, right? Daily code work, 1 minute ago. It was sent 1 minute ago, right? Past 10, almost 11 in my country here. And so right now we have this here. These are the things we set here. And we are having this one here, hi, plus the name of the user. Here where I'm seeing something here. I'm seeing Samsung. Is that what we put here? Oh, that is a mistake. So Samsung, that is the mistake we have here, and that is what we have in the database as well, right? Oh, here. So which means you can see that we've received the email. So, hi Samsung, thank you for registering with us. Please follow the link below to complete your registration. Here, thank you, users registration portal service. So this is the message we define here, right? Thank you here, and please follow the link below to complete registration. So this is the message we send. So now we are going to verify the email. So let's click on this to actually verify our registration, right? So I click on it, and wow, so now we see that email verified successfully. Now you can log into your account. So now let's go back to this page and actually try to log in if we can. So this is the email here, and 1 2 3 4 5 6. So let's log in and see. Wow, so now we can see that we are able to verify our email. So we are able to actually register register a new user in our database, and we are able to send email to the user, right? We send the email to the user, and the user is able to verify his account, right? And after the account verification, the user was actually enabled here. You see that the user has been enabled, and the user also was able to log in and access the endpoint that was secured. Okay, cool, right? I'm so happy about this. And so this is all we have for this demo. This video is very long, right? It's very long because a lot of things to do here, so it's very long. But you know what? The link of this code, the link of this project is under this video. I dropped the link there for free, so you can just follow the link and download the project from my Git repository for free. So you can actually go through all the packages one after the other. You go through the classes one after the other, and all the configuration you go through one after the other to actually go through the code and understand how it works. If you have any message, if you have any question, any doubts, any comment, you can don't forget to drop it below in the comment section. And thank you so much for coming. This brings us to the end of our today's demo. I hope you enjoyed this demo, right? Although it's a little bit slow and the video is very long, but it's good we understand what we are doing here actually, right? Okay, guys. This brings us to the end of today's demo, and thank you for coming. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to thumbs up. Okay, please support me by subscribing to my channel and by liking my videos, and also by sharing my video with your friends, by recommending my channel to your friends. Okay, that is one way you can help me grow my channel, and one way you can help me and you can encourage me to actually do more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to subscribe, and please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any comments, please drop below there so we can solve it together. Thank you so much, and see you again in our subsequent video. There are a lot of videos coming up. There are a lot of things like this we are going to be doing together here from time to time in this video. And also there are some there's a video there are some videos on this channel, on my channel here, that actually talks about Spring Security basic authentication and JWT authentication with Spring Security with Spring Boot 3 on this video. So all these links are there below this video, so you can just follow this link and watch those videos. Thank you so much for coming, and see you again in our next video. Thank you and goodbye.